Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with you for a shot of hot and sticky. Dalton was not prepared for that.
You can't spring that on me. That's funny. This is going to be another hot and sticky preparation video.
Hopefully this is a useful video.
We hope so. One of our goals with our hot and sticky videos, eventually we like to tell you what we're writing, how we're progressing, and we wholeheartedly expect people to do the same. But before we start, we'd like to give a little bit of advice that we think would be helpful.
We've had a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
A lot of pokes. And we would like to maybe... We don't have any expertise.
No, absolutely not.
We've got a little bit of experience.
So
we would like to stick this out there, hot and sticky. We're going to go over some of the genres that one might be writing in.
a genre breakdown.
Yes. Literary fiction.
Okay.
And we stole a lot of this from Wikipedia,
Oh, yeah.
which we don't think is illegal. Works that offer deliberate social commentary or political criticism, or focus on the individual to explore some part of the human condition. Normally focuses on theme more than plot. It is introspective in nature. Examples: The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Where would you start with this? My suggestion to anyone hoping to write literary fiction or someone who's already started with character, you will be writing literary fiction, is to start, like I say, with character.
And I think, and this could just be my personal opinion, this is a genre which will be the most difficult to produce. Because literary fiction usually has a lot of layers and a lot of levels. So this is a big challenge to hit a literary fiction piece.
Now, the one thing in this that I would tinker with,
Okay,
is this says offer a deliberate social commentary or political criticism, then says focus on the individual to explore some part of the human condition. What you want to do is you want to write for literary fiction, you want to write a story about a character, and later, after the draft is done, you will notice that themes have naturally sprung up.
Yes.
If it is a social commentary or a political criticism, that will be inherent to the story itself. On the second draft, you go through and you spruce those things up. You go through and you emphasize the parts that stick out about that. But mostly you will change nomenclature accordingly.
Okay.
Right, so if you were talking about something that is dark and dreary, you mentioned with The Great Gatsby an observation that you had about colors. Go into that a little bit, if you will.
And you definitely check out our Great Gatsby video for a more thorough breakdown of this. But Fitzgerald really paints when he writes. When we get Gatsby, he is always surrounded with color. When there's excitement and there's life, everything is gold, it's vibrant, there's sun, everything's shining, shimmering. When Gatsby's reflecting on life before Daisy, without Daisy, describing other things that are not involving his life, everything's gray.
Yes.
It's just gray, period. So there's beautiful artistry there.
Yes.
And I think that is absolutely apparent in literary fiction.
And I would imagine that those things, I won't speak for Fitzgerald, but I would imagine that those things were emphasized more on the second draft.
Oh, yes.
The Road by Cormac McCarthy, the only color that appears is gray.
It's always gray.
Everything's gray. I never knew you could describe gray in so many ways. But that is something that I am imagining sprung up more prevalently in the second draft.
So let's look a little more towards pop lit.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a bad thing to gravitate to, because honestly, I plan on gravitating more towards a pop lit novel at this.
Yeah.
Horror. That's a big genre. People love that.
What did you call me?
Horror.
Oh, okay.
Horror, as Wikipedia defines it, is a genre of fiction which is intended to, or has the capacity to, frighten, scare, disgust, or startle their readers or viewers by including feelings of horror or terror. Some notable examples of this would be Bram Stoker's Dracula, Stephen King, anything really. I put Carrie on here for no apparent reason. And Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
You put Carrie on there to whore out our upcoming review.
Ooh, horror, the horror. In my opinion with this, to create a successful horror piece, you have to start with an element of terror. Now, we've said this a few times in some of our writing videos. From Danse Macabre, Stephen King, there are certain archetypes of horror, which is always a good starting place. The ghost, the thing without a name, the vampire, the werewolf. It really breaks down to, you have to create a monster. You have to create something that is an element of terror, whatever that may be. And it could be as simple as, look at, Carrie. That's a girl who has telekinetic powers.
Yes.
But that's terrifying.
Yes.
There are such little things. Look at Stephen King's It. I mean, Stephen King is the king of horror. All there is to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Clowns are terrifying to most people. That
Yes.
is an element of terror that he grew upon.
I would argue, however, that Stephen King ruined clowns for this generation with
Absolutely.
It.
Absolutely.
Stephen King / Tim Curry.
No, Tim Curry could do no wrong.
But he ruined clowns. I mean, he did such a great job of being terrifying.
Tim Curry's clown just appeared in my room late at night, I would be giddy, not terrified.
Oh, I'd go straight for the shotgun to himself.
Give me another genre.
Science fiction.
Okay.
I probably should have let you do this one, but I did. We get this definition from Richard A. Hyland, which will figure prevalently into a Writer's Quote of the Week that I will be presenting later. Science fiction, Richard A. Hyland says, is realistic speculation about possible future events based solidly on adequate knowledge of the real world, past and present, and on a thorough knowledge of the nature and significance of the scientific method. Examples of this are A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, Contact by Carl Sagan, and 1984 by George Orwell.
Okay.
The thing to start with here is a great what if, the great what if.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what if? Where are we going? Now, there is a quote I will be bringing up later on for the definition between this and what Dalton is presenting next, but I think it is interesting. We've already presented literary fiction, horror, and science fiction, and none of us mentioned Frankenstein, which falls into all three of these genres.
Absolutely. I actually was thinking Frankenstein for horror, but I'm like, he's probably going to do it for science fiction. I'm not going to touch on it. So yeah, your piece could dabble in different genres. That's fine. Look at The Gunslinger by Stephen King. That's genre dabbling at its finest.
Yes.
So there is no wrong way.
And I think that it is beautiful when genres are bent or blended.
Absolutely. Close to science fiction. If you go to the bookstore, these are always coupled together, wrongly in my opinion.
Very wrongly.
But they always are. Fantasy. Wikipedia defines fantasy as a genre of fiction that uses magic or other supernatural elements as a main plot element, theme, or setting. Many works within this genre take place in imaginary worlds where magic and magical creatures are common. Notable examples, The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, Ursula K. Le Guin's The Earthsea series, and whatever we had to read from Ursula K. Le Guin in college that I hated, and Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling.
And what was that last one?
Harry Potter.
Never heard of it.
By J.K. Rowling.
Never
You love it. My opinion, if you're going to go fantasy, is you need to dust off your dice and get back to your Dungeons and Dragons roots. You have to start by world building. The world that a fantasy novel is set in is such a central and important characteristic of the fantasy piece itself. So that would be my opinion. If you're wanting to build a world, you need to go fantasy. Not necessarily, but if you're wanting to go fantasy, you're going to need to build a world.
Well, I think the two are interchangeable.
Okay.
And this is where I'm bringing up an interesting quote, and you said these two are wrongly put together in bookstores a lot. Rod Sterling said that fantasy is the impossible made probable. Science fiction is the improbable made possible.
Beautiful.
Yes.
So what we're trying to get out here with just a bit of a genre breakdown, and there are countless genres, countless.
Absolutely. We listed 4.
We just wanted to get a few.
Yeah, we wanted to get this out there. We wanted to let it be known that go on Wikipedia, type in literary genre, see what goes into it. Type in mystery genre, mystery fiction, and see what goes into it.
I think what we're trying to accomplish with this is one of the biggest questions that's come up with the Hot and Sticky Summer Novel Writing Challenge, and this is a question I always say. What am I going to write?
Where do I start?
Where do I start? How do I come up with an idea?
Yes.
Now, that can happen in numerous ways, but if you are 100% just stuck, this is a great tool, is to sit down and start with genre. Build a world.
Or
create an element of terror.
sit down with what you started with. Where did you start?
And where is it going?
What do I go to from there?
Yes. So just a few opinions, options on how you can start tooling around with ideas for the Hot and Sticky Summer Novel Writing Challenge. This is coming up soon. So you need to get those ideas rolling. If you have any suggestions, please let us know in the comments, but more importantly, make your own Hot and Sticky video. Just put hashtag Hot and Sticky. Everybody who's doing this challenge will have access to it. We will shoot it around on the Twitter machine quite a bit. And basically just any advice that you can bestow that you think has helped you, that you're willing to try, new ideas for writers.
Let us know below where you started, what you've got, where you think you're going, where do you think you're going? All of these things that are important. Here's one thing that I've learned. It is important to write down things that you're thinking before you have a concrete product.
You want to talk a little bit about maybe what we're thinking?
Sure.
Okay. What is your idea? What are you going for so far? Okay. Very preliminary, could completely change.
So I'm going for a sort of retelling of The Old Man and the Sea.
All right.
Instead of the old man, we're going with a male stripper. Instead of the sea, we're going with love. Right?
Okay.
So I'm hoping literary. Is probably going to turn dark.
Okay.
I think that this will be profitable. And here's another thing I want to say. A stripper falling in love, right? What the hell do you think you're doing with that? Well, that's where literary fiction prevails, right? There is everywhere to go with that. You're talking about an entire character, and a character's entire life and where they're going.
All right.
That is something, never, ever, ever be intimidated by the thought of, I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what to do with this. Take the ball and run. That is what is beautiful about a first draft.
I agree.
You might write 20,000 words in this thing that you go through on that second draft and think, you know what? This act just doesn't work. I should have done this here. Cut it and go. Cut bait and run.
Okay.
Not to get too philosophical in The Old Man and the Sea.
I told myself I'm going to try to stick to genre fiction because literary fiction terrifies me. I'm not sure if I'm ready.
I just talked to you about that.
But I started with character. I started with a writing tip that we've mentioned before is you have to write something. You have to kill that which is holy to you. I think that's an important writing tool. I have Tourette's. People see me twitch all the time. Part of that is very ritualistic OCD where you have to do something to relieve a uncontrollable urge. I blink a lot, I do this, I pop my knuckles, because if I don't, I'm just going to like lose it. So, uncontrollable urge is to murder. But there is guilt associated with that, therefore it is justified in the murder of the elderly and disabled who can't defend themselves. Because we treat our old people in society worse than we treat our pets. If your dog is old and can't eat, is having arthritis problems, you put him down. You hold him, you love him, you put him down. We instead put our elderly in cages.
And we leave them there.
And leave them and let them
We
vent.
abandon them.
Yes. So that's my current idea is, ritualistically, he feels he must kill in order to satisfy some primal instinct that he can't control. And that is how he is going to justify doing such, is by putting those who cannot themselves out of misery.
Yes.
And
those are our ideas.
That's just what we've spitballed.
Yeah.
That could change completely. So if you have an idea, definitely let us know down below. Where are you at this point in your writing? And we're going to see where this is going. Hot and sticky.